Good morning, everyone. Now, today we are going to see the one of the most important topic of the unit number two, that is the HTTP. How the application layer services protocol will be helpful to retrieve the information, to retrieve the data from the particular server. So there are some number of protocol which will be used by the application layer to tackle with such kind of services. So whenever any client, it is a client server application which will be used in that particular application layer services. So whenever the client want to request some data or some pages or some information from the server, at that time we need to identify such kind of a protocol which will be access, which will be working behind that particular request and responses of the particular messages. So some protocol which will be used at the time of retrieving the data from the particular server. So one of the protocol that will be used, that is the HTTP. That is the HTTP stand for the hypertext transfer protocol. So basically the HTTP is one of the protocol that will be used to retrieve the web pages from the web server. So hypertext transfer protocol is invented by the Tim Berners-Lee in 1989. So at that time there will be the word of a www, that is a W3 consortium. At that time it will be invented by the Tim Berners-Lee group in the 1994 to support to access the web pages from the internet. So W3 consortium is already has purpose that to create a web standard and guidelines which will be called the W3 recommendations. So by using the standards and the rules and regulations, you can easily access the internet, and they will try to provide their missions also regarding the particular access of the web pages and information from the server. So W3 www is one of the World Wide Web that is invented by the Tim Berners-Lee. The goal for the W3 is that it will provide a web for the everyone. I mean, everyone can access the web whenever they want. Then you can so web on everything and knowledge base and trust and confidence means they are trying to provide a web on everything. They are trying to provide the knowledge base kind of information regarding the any kind of request to the particular server over the internet. They try to we can say that confidence and the trust regarding the such services which will be provided by the W3. So W3 consulting will provide you the way to access the particular information from the server. After that, there will be the we can see that how the HTTP will be evolved and how the HTTP will be used. So HTTP is basically the client server kind of a request and response procedure. So it will be, we can see that how the client will given the request to the particular server. So it is a client server model, you can say that, and that client server model will be helpful to access the web pages from the server. So in this client server model, we can see that HTTP will be working, that it will be provide a request to the particular server regarding the information given by the particular host or particular client. So on the basis of that request, they will try to provide you the information regarding the which kind of information we need to access from the server. So this is the same similar to the FTP and SMTP protocol. That is it will be like HTTP and FTP transport the files using the services of a TCP. So basically the HTTP protocol is working. It will provide a request to the transmission control protocol also, because it will provide the reliable services for the data communication, because TCP protocol or TCP IP protocol will be reliable, providing the reliable services for the data communication as compared to the UDP, because it is a connection oriented type of services. So HTTP only uses one TCP connection at the time of transactions. So HTTP and SMTP messages look similar. Both the messages are the look similar messages are interpreted by the particular browsers, means whenever you are going to request to the particular messages. At that time it will be we can say that key request will be given by the particular browser, and it will be getting the responses in terms of the particular pages and in terms of particular encoded type of coding languages, so that messages will be on the particular browser. HTTP typically uses the TCP but only presumes reliable transport. Means for the performing a reliable type of a services, they are trying to use the TCP because it will be provided services which will be the reliable to end services. HTTP uses a request response model that I already told that it is a client server model, which will be, we call it as a request and response model. Means a client will provide the particular request regarding the particular web pages which he want to access from this any server. So that request will be take under consideration, and on the basis of that request they will try to fetch the data from the server, and that data might be provided as a terms of a responses to the particular users. So that responses may be in the HTML format. They try to encode their particular information into the HTML format, and you can see in your browser how the data which will be appear on your screen. So that is the request and response model, because client will give the request to the server and server will provide the response as per the client request. So HTTP is a request response model. So in this diagram you can see that how the request and response will be working. So client will provide the request to the particular servers, and the server will getting provide you the responses on the basis of the client request. So this World Wide Web is distributed client services, client server services. It provides uniformity over request and responses. HTTP requests are requests for the web document, and response are web documents. Means whenever you want to use the required web pages, at that time you can use the HTTP protocol to getting the web document from the particular server. So basically the HTTP messages have the request messages and the response messages. So these are the two types which will be available for the HTTP messages. So request message have the request lines, header and the body. Whenever the client want to give the request message to the particular server, it contains the request line, header and the body. And in the response messages we will getting the particular status line, header and the body. So we will be getting the responses in type of status lines, header and the body. So these are the diagrams which will be show how the HTTP request and HTTP response message will be available in the particular structure. So request line is at the top of line, then headers, then blank line, then the body which will be present only in some messages at the time of request given to the particular server by the particular clients. In terms of responses, you will be getting the status lines, means what is the status of your particular request, then headers, then the blank lines again, and the body present only in the some kind of a messages. So these request messages and response messages and the request line and status line have the basic functions that key request line provide you the particular request type, which type of request you will be given to the particular servers. So request type, then you have to provide the particular space, then you need to add some URL in that particular request line, and then you have to provide the HTTP version. So this is the format for the request line. Whenever the client want to give the request to the server for the any web pages or any kind of information, at that time your request line may be categorized into three parts, that is the request type, then the URL, and then the HTTP version, which version you are going to use for the particular request. Then status line, after getting the request you will be getting the status line or responses, that will be the in terms of HTTP version, status codes and the status phrase. These are the three type of category which will be used by the particular response type of messages. So request type, in that you will try to define the type of action that the client is requesting. Means you need to provide various type of actions for getting the information from getting the particular web pages from the server. So there are the some kind of we can say that key action method which will be used for the request messages, request type, which that is the get, head, post, put, trace, connect, and the options. These are the some methods, or we can say that key request type of a particular action which will be used by the particular client at during the requesting. So get request a document from the server. Whenever you are going to use the get, at that time you will be request for the document from the particular servers. Head, which will be a request information about a document but not the document itself. So you see, this is the, you are just going to require some information regarding the document but not a document itself. So post method or post we can say that request will be used, send some information from client to server. Means whenever any client want to upload the data, whenever any client want to send the data to the server for storing, you can say that, and at that time we are going to use the post type of a method. Then put, send a document from client to the server. It is again as the particular send a document to the particular server. At the time you can use a put method also. Trace, encourages the incoming request. Then the connect, it will be used for the reserve when the client and server want to use access the particular data. Then options, inquires about the available options which will be regarding the request type. So the standard for specifying any kind of information on the internet means whenever you are going to need the particular request, so at that time protocol, host name, then the port number, and then the path you need to give the particular request to the server. So protocol is you are going to use at the time of request given to the server, that is a HTTP. Then the host we are going to use, that is a key referred to by an alias name, means www we are going to use, that is host name we are going to use for the accessing the any web pages from the server. Then the port number, that specify the port number of the server, that is an optional case, you do not need to provide that such kind of a port number. Path name, that is path name to the particular file. So standard format for accessing the any web pages from the server or any request you want to given to the particular server regarding the pages, at the time you need to give the particular format, that is the, you need to use the particular format, that is the protocol, then the double slash colon and double slash host name, then the colon, then the port number, then slash, then the path of the particular pages. So these are the specific standard format for the URL. Then the status code and phrases which will be used in the response messages. The status code reports the access of the particular request, means which kind of a responses, which kind of a status will be given by the server to the client request that have the some kind of ranges will be available. That status will be given in terms of a particular responses. So 100 range will be the informational, 200 range will be the successful request, 300 range will be the redirection, 400 range will be the client side error, and 500 range will be the server side error. So whenever you are going to that work will be working, or that will be not seen by the particular client at the time of accessing the particular pages, that status code and phrases we will not getting that particular information whenever you are going to access the particular internet. So that may come in the particular format, so that you will be just seen and your browser the particular web pages as a responses. But whenever the any kind of information or status code will be required, or you may get that 404 kind of a error, that is kind of a error will be maybe the part of the status code, you are not accessing the particular kind of a client and server kind of a model. So this kind of a status code and phrases will be given as per the particular request. So these are the some status code which will be available here, that key 100 for the initial part of the request has been retrieved, and the client may continue with the request. 101, 20, 201, 202, 204, then the 404 also not found, error not, the document is not found, client side error. redirectional error, server error. So these are the some errors whenever you are going to getting, whenever you access the pages and your page will be not found in that server, at that time you will be getting some kind of a error. So these are the common error which will be available from the client side and the server side. So these are the status code which will be available from the server side as per your particular request. Now we are moving toward the HTTP header. Header contains additional information. As request lines, we had just seen that key request line have the some kind of a port number and all the request line and all the things which will be available. HTTP header contains the information, additional information regarding the particular request. The header can specify format constraints. Four categories of a header which will be available, that is the general, request, response and entity. So general category contain the information about the particular message, which message you want to given to the particular server or from the server, that will become under the general category. Request specifies the client configuration and preferred format. Means in this that which kind of a request you need to configure from the given to the particular server, that will become another request kind of a category. Responses specify server's configuration and special information about the request. So what kind of a responses you will be getting from the particular server, that will be the server's configuration will become under the category of responses of the HTTP header. Then entity information about the body, means which body which information which will be given from the client or from the particular server, that will become under the particular entity. So these are the general header, that is the cache control header, connection header, date header, MIME version and upgrade. These are the some headers which will be available with the particular request and response to particular messages. So cache control specify information about caching. Connection will show whether the connections should be closed or not. Date show the current date and time. MIME version shows the MIME version which will be used, and the specify the perform communication protocol by the that will be used as the upgraded protocol. So request header have again that key accept character set, accept encoding and accept languages, authorization and various type of request header which will be available. In terms of responses, there will be the accept range, age, public, retry after and server. These are the some which will be used by the header, and the entity, that messages which will be available, the information which will be available with the request and response, that is the entity which will be allow content encoding, content language, content length and so on, that will be available with the particular entity. So now we are moving towards the HTTP transaction. How exactly the HTTP will provide the request, how the your particular request will be reached at the particular server, and what kind of responses you will be getting. So in this request message, whenever client want to send the request message, you need to provide the particular methods. First of all, then your particular port number, and then your particular version, HTTP version, and all the things that will be shown in this yellow block, that key post /cgi -bin doc.pl HTTP 1.1 means here HTTP 1.1 version will be used. So that type of information or that type of a particular request messages which will be shown. As compared to that particular, it will be given to the server, then you will be getting the responses from the server, that key your particular HTTP protocol version, then your particular status code, and then you will be getting some kind of a MIME versions and the server configurations and all the things. So that is the request post method and request response messages which will be transaction which will be available with that particular client and server. So these are the we can say functions, or these are the performance which will be come when you are going to request to the particular server and you will be getting the responses. These kind of actions will be performed at the background. So you can't understand exactly the meaning, you can't understand exactly the what kind of a going thing will be happen at the time of a particular request and responses, but you will be just seen that key the particular web pages you want to access from the server, that will be appeared on your browser, appeared on your screen. You can just see such kind of responses from the server. So these are the total actions will be added or happen when any client want to request to the server, and we will be getting the responses. So all protocol versions, methods, and the particular information and entity and all the things will be used. So non-persistent connections of HTTP, that will be the persistent connections are default in HTTP version 1.1. What I mean by the persistent and non-persistent means which will be one connection is made for each request and response. So your data will be persistent, your connection will be persistent for the particular time durations. So 1.1 version of HTTP is a persistent connections for the particular client and server request and response communications or one connections. So client opens a connection and send a request to the particular server, then server send the responses and close the connections. So clients read the data, then close the all connections. Means whenever the request and response we need to give, the client will be open the connection, give the request, then server will provide the responses, then server will close the particular responses their side, and client read the data and then connection the particular all the close the connections which will be available. So require n connections for n files, means in a non-persistent connections you need to access or you need to provide a connection for each and every transactions. Require n type of a connection for the n files. This is the non-persistent data. Means whenever you want to give the request and response for each transaction, you need to provide you need to give the particular connections, you need to establish the particular connection. It is the non-persistent connections. So persistent connection is the connections which remove the high overhead of a non-persistent connections. The connection remains open until the client requests it to be closed or the connection times out. Means in the persistent connection, what will happen that your connection will be open until the client will not close it or until the client request will be not getting properly. So that will be the maybe up to the timeout also. So this is the persistent connections. Length of data is sent when applicable. So then the concept of a proxy servers. Proxy servers act as a go-betweens for the actual servers. Proxy servers maintain a cache of a recent request. HTTP requests are sent to proxy server, which check their cache. The actual server is only accessed when the proxy server does not have the requested information. So whenever maybe at the most of the time it will happen that whenever you want to access the particular information or particular sites data, at that time you properly not getting the data because of the some restrictions, unauthorized access also. At that time you need to add some proxy server, proxy kind of a server you need to access. So that proxy server will provide you the content of that particular services. So to remove the traffic, to ignore the traffic of the particular connections, at that time proxy servers they may try to use. So it will be available, it will be uses for the particular traffic control also. So HTTP will request are sent to proxy server because it will be available in the cache. So we check their particular caches. So it will not that you don't need to access the actual server, because all the information all be proxy information regarding the server will be available in the particular cache. So proxy server does not have the requested kind of information. The proxy server polls the server for the requested information and updates its cache. So that information which will be required, that will be updated in that particular proxy server. It reduces the traffic coming into the original server, because most of the time most of the client want to access the data from the server. Multiple clients want to access data server, so traffic will be increases. So this is the to avoid such kind of a traffic, you can use the proxy servers. Requires that the client is configured to access the proxy instead of the targeted server. So because of that, latency time of the particular services will be improved because the traffic will be controlled properly by the proxy server. So this is about the HTTP request and response messages. So as we had discussed about the HTTP is a protocol which will be used by the application layer whenever the client want to access any information or pages, web pages from the particular server. At that time, HTTP protocol will be accessed with the particular TCP IP protocol, because TCP provide the reliable data communication, so that key in with the help of a TCP we can access the HTTP protocol to access the particular pages from the given server. Basically HTTP will be provide you the request and response type of a model. Means client will provide you the request to the server regarding the web pages or information, and that information will be provided as a response to the particular client from the server. So these are the there are some kind of method which will be available, that is the put, post, then the get method, and the trace, and the connect, and the particular all the methods which will be available. Then the responses which are also available, that key how will be getting the responses. Then the how HTTP will be used, the request line, how the particular response status and all the thing will be getting whenever the client want to communicate. So all these available in that particular we can see that key in a that messages. So multiple clients want to access the data from the same server. At that most of the time, at that time the server will provide responses to all multiple clients at the same time. It may not happen that key all the client require the same data, but all the different multiple client require the multiple type of services from the server. So server will getting the most of the time multiple responses. Because of that, it will be needed that that request which will be getting from the particular client, that multiple responses will be given by the particular server at the time. So this is the work because of the HTTP. So HTTP protocol which will be work for the application layer. So this is uses the various types of methods which will be uses the various types of particular services which will be used for the client server model. So I hope ki you may understand the concept of the what is exactly the meaning of HTTP protocol, how it is a connection will be established, how the particular port number, then the HTTP versions, and the particular URL will be uses, and how it will be given the particular responses in terms of a status code and the particular HTTP version. So this is about the HTTP protocol. Thank you very much for watching the video. Thank you.